Henry John Temple once said, "There are no permanent alliances, only permanent interests." Keep this in mind as we discuss today Taliban's recent trip to China and what does it mean for the future of geopolitics. My name is Dr. David Oualaalou.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
We want to thank you for subscribing. It really helps us get the word out.
And also, we take this opportunity to thank our Patreon members. And for you, if you like our videos, consider joining our Patreon membership. Thank you all for your support. Back to our topic, Ross.
China and the Taliban. Wang Yi has invited the Taliban to a recent meeting in China. What do you make of this?
That's correct. Whoever thought, right?
Whoever thought?
Well, indeed, there was a trip a few days ago. Nine-person delegation from the Taliban went over to China, to a city called
Tianzin.
to meet with them, which was to me, it was surprising that China's inviting the Taliban. That says a lot in itself, and because just the photo op of the Taliban with Mr. Wang Yi says a lot. So,
you know, one of the things that seems that the Chinese are propagating here is that if there's going to be any permanent settlement in Afghanistan, the Taliban must be involved. What do you think?
You're absolutely correct, Ross. And I think the West does not want to accept that fact or that reality, because Taliban is not only a political, it's also a military force that you have to take into consideration for any resolutions in Afghanistan.
Especially since they seem to control so much of the country.
Well, yeah, there is no way. I mean, I recall recently that the president of Afghanistan asked Pakistan to target the Taliban. That just tells you right there that the Afghani government, the military, are not able to control what's going on in the country. And Taliban is a force that one way or another, I don't care who said otherwise, because it's the reality. You cannot reach peace in Afghanistan without Taliban being part of that process.
Well, you have firsthand on-the-ground experience there.
Well, that's correct, and this is where I'm coming from, that conclusion of China is seeing that possibility. Also, China's thinking in terms of, if China provides this platform for Taliban, you know what? Taliban's not going to forget that.
Right.
They're not going to forget that. In a good way, thinking that, it was only a China from out of all the 198 or 200 countries around the world that provide us that platform. Usually the Taliban, usually when they go for negotiations, they go to Qatar. Mm-hmm. Qatar has been playing the mediator, but they never reached an agreement with the U.S. when Qatar was overseeing those talks. China now is looking at it differently, from a different perspective altogether. I know they want to get into the economic aspects, because Afghanistan plays a major role into the BRI, the Belt and Road
Number
Initiative.
one.
That's one.
And number two, they have a few natural resources.
That is correct. We have to consider, especially the rare earth minerals. And we're going to do a specific show about that one, because there are a lot of information coming out now about the importance within the next 5-10 years of the rare earth minerals. And who controls it? Controls the direction of the economy, shall we say. So,
well, if there's only $3 trillion involved, well, that tells the whole
that's
story.
Correct. That is correct. There is another element that the Chinese, in my opinion, and this is my personal assessment, that they have to consider. And the reason why they invited the Taliban, that has to do with EITM. EITM stands for East Turkestan Islamic Movement.
Oh, this is incredibly important to China.
It is important because back in 2002, a UN Security Resolution 1267 was issued declaring this entity as a terrorist group. EITM was involved in Xinjiang terrorist activities there. So I can just see why China wants to reach out to the Taliban now, not only for economic perspective, but also to ensure that Taliban will control any element who might be involved in that. So
well, my understanding is that that terrorist group really played havoc in Xinjiang.
They did. Back in 2003, it was some operation there and so forth. But for China, is looking at it the big picture,
right?
As we're saying. And to me, the way I see it is a win-win situation. It's a win for Taliban because
clearly,
yeah, because China provided them the global platform. It's a win-win for China because the economic aspects.
Peace in a region in China that's been under intense view of the world, and the economic resources.
Exactly, and this is why I believe China took chance on, you know what, we're going to have that photo up with the head of the Taliban delegation, Baradar, his name was Baradar. They decided, no, they're going to take chance with this by having that photo up because it was seen all over the world. China's welcoming or hosting a Taliban delegation. To Taliban, it was significance. Yeah. It's almost, politically speaking, it's almost saying, hey, we are a force that you have to be...
We're now recognized by major world power.
Exactly. That's the point, Ross. And this is where I see the calculated move of China, strategic one, the best, because it appears to me that China is going to succeed where the U.S. has failed.
It's already spectacularly succeeding.
Well, it's because the Taliban never trusted the Americans or any others. So they seems to have a different approach when it comes down to China. So, and as we said in one of our videos, making a comment on it, that if China plays its card right in Afghanistan, that's going to change the dynamics, not only in that part of the world, but globally speaking. It's because the BRI, as we all know, Afghanistan is going to play a major role, but also, like you mentioned earlier, for the natural resources that exist under that ground in Afghanistan.
Well, China already has a contract with the Taliban, isn't that correct?
They did sign one way back for the rights to explore minerals and so forth. So they do have something in place. And now they didn't want to get in because the U.S. was there.
Right.
Now the U.S. is out. So China is moving
Fair
in.
game.
Yeah. And once again, if China plays its card right, it's going to benefit them in a long term. This is where I see it going. I know the Secretary of State, U.S. Blinken, was recently in India and making the arguments that, well, if the Taliban wants sanctions lifted on some of their members to travel, they need to abide by human rights, and all that's going to fall on deaf ears because
China already gave them access to the world.
That's one, and second is the credibility.
Right.
Yeah, that's the U.S. kind of lost credibility. We're not bashing the U.S. here. We're just saying what is factual. It's because there are elements of trust.
It might be important for us to clarify. We are American citizens.
I know.
And we love our country.
I know. And sometimes when we mention something, Ross, some people think that we are just bashing America for the heck of it.
One of the things we want to accomplish is to bring information to people so that they can make informed choices and let their Congress people know about it.
Exactly. And we also address these issues out of concern.
Right.
Because we care about our country, where our country is headed. Personally, someone who's a little bit familiar with this geopolitical chess moves and so forth, it is to the betterment of not only the U.S. or China, but rather for the whole world. If both countries can come to an agreement by sitting down and figure out how can we work together.
There are such important issues for all human beings to be coping with right now.
Yeah, and that is the whole reason why we mentioned this. I mean, I know sometimes we get those comments like, well, you guys are not, which is nonsense. I forgive people's ignorance sometimes, but if things don't make sense, then kind of we're just addressing these issues because we care about where America's headed. And we wanted to ensure that if the little influence we could have could change the trajectory in having that.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's all we are aiming at. But, we care for our country as much as any other Americans will. I hope so. So that is where I see the things going. But as far as just to go back to the issue of the Taliban here, I do see some changes coming down. Taliban will be able to adjust some of its, shall we say, policy or harsh interpretation. They're going to have to adjust a little bit. As somebody who read a little bit about Islam and understand, and I know there are certain interpretation and explanations that kind of, beyond our time, shall we say?
Right.
The Taliban is going to have to realize that the world has changed. And if they are to move along with what China wants to achieve, what the Taliban wants to achieve, and what's good for Afghanistan as a whole, they're going to have to adjust some of their attitude towards certain issues, domestic issues, that only they can do that. We can't dictate to them what to do. We can't tell them, you need to change this and you need to change that. Who are we?
Well, the Chinese seem to be pretty good at letting people be alone.
Well, this
Let
is...
them alone.
Yeah. And
run your country the way you want to.
You're absolutely correct, Ross. And this is where I see that key factor that the Taliban realized in their relationship with China that they didn't have with, let's say, the U.S. during the negotiations or even the current Afghanistan government, because they don't see eye to eye on a host of issues.
Here's a question I ask myself very frequently.
Yeah.
And I'll use Afghanistan as an example. What we see is a devastated country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens, how does the culture migrate as they become more prosperous? As there's economic opportunities, as the country is being rebuilt, and people start having something. How does the government change and how does the culture change? I don't have answers for it, I'm just observing.
Well, during my time over in that part of the country, they don't have any the basic things that you and I enjoy here, just like a sidewalk.
Yeah.
A sidewalk. I didn't see any in that part of it. Sad to say, but this is why even basic information is going to make a big difference in that country, let alone it's going to impact the people psychologically. They're going to start to see, when now you have running water in your home.
And when that's a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really a big difference.
Yeah, for a society like that, especially in the rural areas, when you have electricity in your home, when you sort of kind of, you get like factories or whatever you want to call it, it's gonna boost them boost their morale in a sense of, we want to do more, we want to work more to make our country better. That's where I see it going. And once again, if China plays its card right, this is a huge win for China, and it's also a win not only for the Taliban but for Afghanistan as a whole.
And it might be a win for the whole Middle East. If they see that peace really is possible, and there is actually a peace broker who's credible.
You're absolutely correct, Ross. I couldn't agree more. Because that's usually how those things trickle down. Especially, one thing I was going to say is the idea of the central government right now in Afghanistan has to come to a grip with the reality that there will be no political solution without the inclusion of the Taliban. I know Ashraf Ghani was a former economist, by the way, and we're the one who put him in power, and that's a wrong approach to begin with. Let people decide whatever they want, and there will be no solution if the central government, current one right now, does not accept Taliban as part of the political solution.
Well, with no U.S. troops there to support a negotiation, how come the central government how come the Taliban would want to negotiate?
Yeah.
They're winning.
They won't. Exactly. And you get now some Afghan military service members are fleeing. They're leaving because they know what the outcome is going to be, We all know this. I mean, it became clear to me personally, and I speak for myself here. It became clear to me back in 2007.
A long time ago.
Way back, became clear to me. Kind of through my academic readings and research and stuff that I was doing as
And
far as my
being there.
PhD. Yeah, and being there, I saw with my own eyes. You're not going to defeat those through a military conflict. There is no military solution to this. And yet we entities, be it Washington or the West London or whatever, we pretended, no, the military solutions could end up being the winning factor. No, it won't work.
Not from the outside.
No, it's not. And this is where China, I believe, had to wait, not to engage while still there's turmoil going on. And yes, the situation right now is dire because Taliban, as a matter of fact, just took over a large portion of Helmand province. Helmand province is a large province. It's a big one. And Herat also. The central government is saying, no, we are fighting them. There are some locals who are bearing arms against the Taliban, but the Taliban is a force that they're going to have to sort of deal with.
Well, the Taliban have been there for a very long time, and they have, with various other outside help, stood their ground. And now they're winning.
Indeed. Well, the Russians found that out. And speaking of Russians, while I am remembering this, Taliban also visited Russia and Iran.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating because what does it tell you geopolitically? That it's almost, the way I interpret that, and again, this is my personal opinion, Taliban are sending a message, this time the one physically, to Russia and Iran, almost like to reassure them that they have nothing to worry about. Because remember, China, Iran, and Afghanistan share a large border.
And so the Taliban are saying, we're going to contain it only in Afghanistan.
Exactly. And to me, that was like a smart, shrewd move of the Taliban for them to approach it that way by going to Russia, by going to Iran, and of course getting that warm welcome that even the U.S. Under Secretary Wendy Sherman didn't even get.
Well, we know that Russia was concerned because they sent so many troops to their southern border.
Well, that's correct, because of the issues they sent them over by Tajikistan, because it's close to the border with Afghanistan, to make sure that there will be no elements, but also has to do with refugees.
Oh.
Remember also, because now everybody's going to be fleeing Afghanistan. This is why Pakistan made the decision, we're not getting involved, we're not targeting the Taliban, because they don't want to have any issues.
They flat out rejected it.
Yeah, they won't. Because they know what the consequences will be, and that is one of the reasons why they said we better not get involved in targeting the Taliban.
I saw a presentation from, is it President Khan, or is it Prime Minister?
Imran Khan, the Prime Minister. Yes.
Very reasonable. He said, we can't afford to have any conflict that involves Afghanistan or be on the side of anyone who's going to be in conflict with them.
Well, he is considering the welfare of his country, and remember, Pakistan, it will be destabilized if there are any issues with the Taliban inside Pakistan. And Pakistan, Islamabad doesn't want to have that, because they know what will happen if they ever target the Taliban in Afghanistan, and they're not going to do it, no matter who asks them for that. I don't believe they're going to do it.
Well, Khan said, absolutely, we're not going to do it.
No.
Couldn't have been more clear, and he couldn't have been more reasonable with it.
Yeah, and also because of their national security interests.
Exactly.
So they're not going to risk their security for the sake of someone else asking them to do that. So.
I have to say something about the patience of the Chinese.
Sure.
They sat on contracts or deals for more than a decade, just waiting for the right time. Then they come in and say, listen, we'll help you negotiate a settlement.
Yeah. Well, that's what seems to be doing. I mean, for them to get that reception in Beijing, in China, Tianjin, that's where they met, that says a lot right there. You got your global message right there in that big photo op with Mr. Wang Yi in the middle, and the Afghanis and the other members of the Chinese Foreign Affairs.
Seeing that picture, it was really dramatic.
It was.
And I can't help but think the whole world is looking at that.
Exactly, and it's very, very significant. It's a
Very.
powerful message, as we always say. A picture is worth more than 1,000 words. That's usually.
David, what would you say is the major takeaway for our viewers from this whole situation in the Taliban and China?
Well, the major thing that I will personally say is that China sees the opportunity here by playing its card right when it comes down to the Taliban, by providing them that global platform they need so badly, because that's how that recognition is going to be. What you're going to see trickle out of that is the economic opportunities that's going to pave the way, with the assumption that if China plays its card right.
It's a win, 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 win scenario.
You're absolutely correct, Ross. Yeah.
Don't forget to like and share. Mostly subscribe to our channel. It really helps us get our message out when you subscribe.
Thank you for watching, and as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.